my second podcast of the day, although I think this one's going to come out the next day. The other one went on a little bit longer than I thought. It's been a while since I had coverage, so there's a lot to cover. But today I want to get into, or tomorrow, whenever it comes out, this one, the offensive line, backup quarterbacks with a focus on Patrick Paul. It's very important that as we understand this thing, it is preseason. There's certain talent levels you're not scheming for or against. But there's certain things that carry over to anything. And so one of the talk is that we need a better backup quarterback. And Mike White and Skyler aren't the best. They're not hot to trot. They're not going to be starting anywhere, at least, Skyler right now. But I would say it's more about the type of quarterback. I'm going to show you some real clear stats that the way Chris Grier built this thing, it is very, very specific. This is great when things are in that specific way and you can drive the specific talent. You do amazing things. Problem is, it isn't really so adaptable in environments. And it's not really adaptable at all because of the way we built for the quarterbacks. Mike White and Skyler are not designed for the way this team has been designed. Tua, with his quick release, lightning quick release, his ability to throw with anticipation and accuracy, makes him the only guy on this team that can drive this scheme. This scheme is built on talent, skills, talent, and very little on the offensive line. You got to get the ball out quick. Now, Mike White and Skyler didn't have, Waddle and Hill and soon OBJ and Jonnu Smith really driving this thing. So that's another piece of the puzzle. But if you go look at Skyler, he was kept clean 52.4% of the time, and his time to throw was 2.49. 2.49 is not long in the NFL standards. Round 2.4 to 2.50. A lot of teams fit in that for their clean time to throw. But the pressure was very high because we didn't get out quick enough. There's a lot of backups and guys that are not starting, all that. But you're understanding what this team's about as far as protection. He had 47.6% pressure rate, which is not good. He was blitzed 28% of the time, which was double, which is exceptional. The play actions, though, so McDaniel said, hey, you know what? I want to see what these guys can do. I want to see what Skyler can do under pressure. And I can tell you that for a fact because last year we had 15% screen rate. We ran 14.3, which is normal. Last year we ran about 20, almost 30% play action, but we only ran 19% with Skyler. And so taking that, the protection calls to help out the offensive line blockers off the table forced this offensive line to block better, and they really couldn't handle it too much. And Skyler couldn't get the ball out quick, didn't have the skills and all this other stuff. If you look at Mike White, he was kept clean 82% of the time, which is 7% higher than Tua last year at 75. But the time to throw is 2.60. The processing, the getting the ball out was 0.51 higher, which is half a second, which is insane. Only a 17.6% pressure rate, but it was a 17.6 blitz rate, which is not superstar status. Play actions, though, from Skyler to White went up to 29%. So McDaniel said, hey, you know what? We're not doing good here. We're seeing lots of pressure. Let's up the protection here. And it helped. But then it also limited the options, slowed down his ability to throw the football. So really, when you look at this, and a lot of these guys are not going to be in, but the similarities in here, because some of these guys are going to be starters, it's going to transport to when Tua gets in here. And last year, at least, we ran a lot of play actions. We ran a lot of screens to offset the lack of protection up front. But Tua, Hill, Waddle were able to get that out. And then you hopefully get OBJ and Jonnu can accentuate it further. But Tua is the only guy who can drive this. And a lot of this is more the backup quarterback situations based on our offensive line being not so hot to trot. And the guy's skill set at the quarterback position can't drive the thing. Savvy, comprendez-vous. So I'm going to get into Paul first, And then I'm going to get into the offensive line, its parts, what's going on here, what's the situation. My evaluations are not always perfect, but I think they're very good on the offensive line. I've been saying things for 3 years, and a lot of that stuff is now being talked about finally now. So I'm going to get into that. But first, guys, the likes, subscribes, the comments, and the views, that keeps me in business. I learned from Douglas Do Wrong and Alf and a bunch of other guys. You know, you have to do the salesman thing because it's the only way that makes it happen. You guys have been doing a phenomenal job for me with the subscriptions and the likes and the comments and all that stuff. But if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't liked, please hit the like button. And if you haven't commented, definitely comment. I love the comments. I appreciate all your comments about my friend Nino, who's battling and all the other stuff. Anyway, guys, so without much further ado, I want to give a shout out to you and to my sponsors, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, I set the sucker up and I had put it on the computer, but I forgot I had notes on Paul here, so the pad's here. So Paul had a good showing. I see some stuff that's like really starting to get high. And okay, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, whatever. I'm going to give you some things to think about. I'll do the film next preseason game, add some of the previous preseason game, and I'm going to point out some things to watch when you see him, and then maybe it will make some sense to what I'm saying. I didn't put the film here because it's late after the preseason game, and it might not get any traction. There's a lot of work. But next time, it will be a hot-to-trot item, and it will get more traction, so I'll put it all together for that. So he had 36 pass protections, only 5 true pass set protections. That means without play actions, without rollouts, without getting a double, one-on-one, how did he do? And his efficiency rating was 90.1. He gave up 1 pressure. In the 31 other ones, his efficiency rating was 97.2, which is still below. You need like a 98, just above a 98 to be like a good player, offensive lineman. He gave up a hit in a hurry. It was only 2 pressures on a day. The guy wasn't going against the best talent. Some of the talent he was going against was bull rush talent, which is his strength. Overall, I think he did an excellent job. But there's things that when you break it down more deeply, you're going to see it's not going to fly so pretty against better competition, against when he's getting game planned against at this stage. But he is on track. He is on track. He's supposed to be a guy that was raw with crazy physical talent, at great intelligence and character. And so he's going to take time to pull it all together. How high will it go? I don't know, but it's going to go pretty high, I think. But I don't know about this year. And these are some of the things that you can look at to see that and go, oh, okay, now it makes sense what Curtis is saying. He's not just being a jackass. Now, when you watch him, a lot of times when he kicks, he hedges his bet. You'll see his inside foot is right, straight like this, but then the other foot is turned inward, and he's hedging his bets to get the bounce back. So he feels like if he gets that foot turned inside, he can lock and push off. But what happens is it puts him out of balance. Your feet have to remain balanced, equal. If not, then you're losing it. And on top of that, when you watch him, when he drops and he has a side, he's also kind of leaning a lot to the right. He fears the outside in. It's natural. The guy's a giant guy. He's a big guy. He has a little trouble dropping his hips. But if you look at his stance, when he gets into his 3-point stance, it looks better than it did early on. When you see him from last season, you see him in the combine, it looked a little bit higher. He looked a little more uncomfortable. And I do see a dropping of his leverage. And that's a big deal. It's going to take a little more time for him. But those feet have to be in balance. He can't hedge so much because if you lean this way, then you get the inside, the outside in and then back out again. And even if you lean, it's hard to get back in. You're getting to one hand and you don't have leverage. You're not in front of him. And there's a lot of things he can do to fix this. And I think he's going to. Now, one of the problems with his run game, if you watch and you go back and watch, he does a good job getting to the spot, but then he's hesitant. And his hands are late arrivals. The guy gets into him or gets his hand punch inside his numbers, and he's working outside. He's lurching over them. Now, this guy has got huge arms, long arms. And once he gets more confident in attacking and peeling, you get the hands inside the other guy's hands, you get the leverage on the numbers, keep your elbows in here, and then you get control. But his late arrival, his hesitancy is hurting him in his run blocking department. And it's very simple fix. I would have to assume that Barry's going to correct it, but he's got so many things he's working on, and you're seeing improvements here and there. I think this might end up being the last one on the list. So I talked about foot angle and the leverage. When you watch him come out of his stance, he has a tendency to rise a little bit. And his leverage by dropping those hips, getting more confidence in what he's doing, correcting those feet angles, and especially getting that inside peel. He's got to get good hand technique, or he's just going to be, guys are going to get into him. And sometimes he's so big, he can get the guy and he moves him out of the way. But this, again, is lower end talent. It really only works against the smaller guys. And so it's going to be very, very critical. But there's so many things swirling around in his head. He has so many assets, and he's got to start, at some point, he will start seeing, hey, look, you know what? I've got these giant arms. Hey, I am a monster as far as my size. I am very strong. I'm not going to worry about the inside. I'm going to get my feet in right position. The game's going to slow down for me. I'm going to be more patient. I'm going to understand what the guy is doing before he actually does it. And once he starts getting the positioning and the hands and he's tacking inside and gaining control and getting a more confident feel, he'll be able to assert his strengths. But at this stage, he is still in the learning process. And I think he's in the right direction. But if you go back and you just chalk up a couple of wins and you look at some numbers and you cut out certain other numbers, it looks to be much better than it is. But he is supposed to be a year 2 guy, and he is on that track. I do see some strong developments in those key areas he needs, but it's not there yet, guys. Let's see what happens in week 2. Be very interesting to see some of these things I talked about. They're not going to be corrected, but are they getting better? That's going to be the big thing for me. Now, Eichenberg is going to be playing center. You might have Driscoll or Cotton at right guard. Tehran hasn't come in yet. He's going to be there week 1. You got Jackson. You've got a lot of guys, except for Robert Jones at left guard, and I like him better at right guard, who can handle power. You saw Ryan Hayes get driven back and knocked out Keon Smith. You saw last year Eichenberg get driven back and knock out Tehran. Paul is a big piece of the puzzle. He can handle the bull rush. He's working on his drive blocking. Tehran's an athlete, technician. He can handle it all. He's not a power guy. Brewer's not such a power guy. Jones is. There's a lot of guys on here that are not power guys. Now, the hard part about what we like to do, which is heavy zone stretch, that means we run outside the numbers and you bend it back in. It takes a lot of agility and speed to get that movement, to really make the zone stretch happen. But you still need junk in a trunk to handle power. And handling power is a core asset. You don't have to be great at it, but you cannot be bullied most of the time. It becomes a major problem. And Eichenberg can't handle it. I think Brewer, if you flank him by the right guards, he can. This offensive line, you look at Lester Cotton, Sean Harlow, Driscoll. Lester Cotton's a big guy. He just doesn't have the strength. Patrick Paul's a guy who will do it. Matos is just not going to be ready, I don't think. Hayes doesn't have it, and Keon Smith is out. And then you got Eichenberg and the rest. I think the concern right now for us should be is this offensive line just not having enough power right now. And I think it's a little worse. If you look at Brewer, he can handle power. He's a thick, strong guy, although he's a little smaller. We need him back by week 2. I think we could probably beat the Jags handily at this stage, I think, even with this mishmash line of, say, Tehran, Jones, Eichenberg, and somebody's mother over there, right guard, and then Jackson. With all the talent, if, OBJ's going to be a little concerned, we could beat, but when you go against the Bills and Seattle, especially Seattle on the road with all that noise, and they come back against the Titans, who have a very potent front and secondary, and they're very physical, those 3 games are critical for us. 4-1 is without a doubt the lowest we can go. It's going to get very difficult after that. Thank God. Jalen Phillips is back. We'll see with that. But this offensive line, it should be a concern. I would be less concerned if OBJ was here because the leverage, Hill, Waddle, OBJ, and Jonnu in a 3 wide and 1 tight end look would be, but I'm not sure if OBJ is going to be here. And if he's not ready week 1, these first 4 games, which, are critical ones, he might not be there. The leverage might not be there, and it might force this offensive line to do more than it's capable of. We've got to get the ball out quick, 2.2, 2.3, on a decent, consistent, the latest. It's really got to be around 210 or maybe even less. I don't know. We don't have Connor and Hunt this year. So it'll be very interesting to see. 2 is the only guy who can do it, who can handle it for us. His movement skills will help it, buy a little more time. But that's where we're at, guys. This offensive line should be a concern. The quarterbacks are not really bad backup quarterbacks. They just don't fit. And Patrick Paul is doing a real good job, but let's be a little more control with the evaluations because then you get disappointed and you think the kid's not doing what he's doing, and he is. So that's it, guys. I'll be back tomorrow. Or if this comes out tomorrow, I'll be back later on today. I don't know what's the deal. But I appreciate all you guys do. I'm going to give you a shout. Oh, I did that already. Anyway, I'm out of. Anyway, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.